Hi everyone, Ashley, your neighborhood dairy farmer here, and I wanted to talk to you today about something that I get asked about a lot. I get asked quite often about why are there all these different types of cow's milk in the grocery store? What does it all mean? And how do I pick the right thing for my family and feel confident that I am picking, something safe? Hey guys, make sure that you like and follow and share this video and subscribe down below so that you don't miss out on anything else that I'm doing. I even sometimes have a hard time remembering and thinking about, what is the difference between it all and what does it really mean? Because there is a lot out there. But ultimately, if I want you to take home like one main bold printed takeaway, and that's the fact that all cow's milk that you will buy in the grocery store is safe and healthy, regardless of what label you have. You can pick any of the labels. But no matter what kind you choose, it's safe, nutritious, and healthy, period. But I am also going to explain all the differences between the milk, and there's 4 main ways that milk is differentiated and what makes milks different from each other. Number 1, how the cows are raised. Number 2, how the milk is processed in the plant. So some very basic processing things. Number 3, what can be added to milk at the processing plant to change its nutritional value or maybe flavoring, different things like that. Number 4, labels. Some of it is just how different companies label the milk. But I'm gonna start with how the cows are raised. So I have just a normal, regular gallon of whole milk, store brand whole milk. And I often have people ask me, what is the difference between that and organic whole milk? So the most basic difference between those two things is literally that on the organic side, cows are raised with some different rules. I am going to preface that. I'm going to start by saying that I think all cows, whether conventional or organic, are raised with good cow care standards. Most farms in the United States follow basic farm animal welfare rules from their co-op, from the processors that they're sending their milk to, from any of the companies that they're working with. So there are standards for animal welfare. So the organic standards are often less about animal care and more about perception. Some of the rules that are put in line for organic cows, they can't be given vaccinations. There are no antibiotics used on their animals at all that are then having milk sold as organic. Their cows have to have access to pasture or outside so many days out of the year. So just different things like that. There's other things that follow into organic, but those are, they have to be fed organically raised feed too. There's other things about that, but like all of us, I'm a big fan of vaccination. I vaccinate my kids, so I don't really see why I wouldn't vaccinate my cows. The other part of that is that milk is one of the most highly tested food products in the world, meaning that at all these different parts of the process, from being on the farm to getting in the gallon of milk or into whatever container you're buying it in, is that it's one of the most highly tested types of food. And so there are no antibiotics in any milk that you're going to buy in the store. If it comes up as positive for antibiotics in any part of the system, it gets dumped down the drain. So you can totally feel confident in that. However, if you like the idea of organic, it's totally cool. It's a safe, healthy, nutritious product. One of the current trends in fluid milk is what's called A2A2. So A2A2 is really unique. Not all cows have it, so we can test our cows to see if they have the A2A2 gene instead of A1A2 or A1A1. And basically all that gene does is that the double positive, so 2A2s, means that a cow has a different type of protein in her milk. And so that protein is actually easier for some people who have often been thought of as lactose intolerant. They can actually digest the A2A2. My mom is one of those people. She always thought she was lactose intolerant, and as it turns out, she actually just has a sensitivity or an allergy to A1A1. So that's truly all it is. Cows aren't treated any differently. My second part is how the milk is processed. So generally, and when we're talking about this kind of a gallon, a very traditional gallon of milk, milk comes into the milk processing plant and it is homogenized, which really simply, all that means is normally when milk isn't homogenized, the fat floats to the top of the gallon. So it's all chunky, you can sift the cream off if you want. Well, when they homogenize milk, all they're doing is they're breaking up the fat molecules so that they're evenly dispersed through the milk, so that every glass of milk that you drink is yummy and delicious and has that healthy fat all throughout it. The next process is pasteurization. So this is where it gets a little more complicated because there's lots of different types of pasteurization. When you get 100% your traditional milk, this truly traditional milk, it's the only one allowed to use your really typical pasteurization process, which is why it has a little bit of a shorter expiration period. It's because it's not a totally sterile product. It is pasteurized to safety, but it won't last a really long time like in a fridge. So if it's anything outside of your ordinary, so even organic is often used in an ultra high temperature pasteurization product. Fairlife is because it's considered non-traditional. So Fairlife is done in a way where it's sterile, but it's not truly shelf stable. So it still needs to be cooled even before it's open. It definitely has a longer fridge life than your traditional gallon of milk, but it still doesn't last forever. I think once it's open, it's 2 weeks. Usually when you purchase it in the store, it has like 2 months unopened in your fridge. That's why. It's just because all it does is it kills more of the bacteria. And then you have things like the core power, which are totally shelf stable, don't need a refrigerator. They do, of course, have an expiration date. For this one, it's June 13th, so I think they're generally 6 months. But they can sit out on a shelf. They can sit in your bag. I like these for convenience. I think that's why they're doing some of this, because it's really convenient. So the safety on all of these pasteurized milks are the same. And yes, pasteurization and doing the longer pasteurization sometimes do change a little bit of the nutrition content. It does break down some of the proteins. But from a dairy farmer, I don't even give my kids unpasteurized milk. So I am a real believer in the fact that what you maybe lose in some protein and maybe some good bacteria content does not outweigh the fact that safety is key. That I feel safe giving this to my kids. I don't have to worry about my kids getting sick as long as it's before the expiration date. So additives are the third part, and they kind of go into with this processing at the milk plant. So this milk, they add vitamin D to it because vitamin D helps boost calcium absorption. Simple as that, natural vitamin D. That's really the only additive that they do to this milk. They might take some of the fat out of it because they want to get you your the amount of fat. So if you look on your at your traditional glass of milk, it always has 8 grams of fat. Even in whole milk, this is whole milk, it has 8 grams of fat in it. And so because You as a customer coming into the grocery store, when you pick up that gallon of milk, you always want to know what you're getting. And so sometimes if a tanker of milk that they get in has a little bit of higher fat content, they'll pull some of that fat out before they homogenize it and pasteurize it, so that way you know exactly what you're getting. Whole milk has a very consistent 8 grams of fat per serving. So then things like Fairlife, they're a little interesting. So there's lots of different processes that you can go through. One of them being centrifuging. So what they do, so on our Fairlife label, it says 50% less sugar than average chocolate milk. Well, how they get that is lactose, which is in milk, is considered a sugar source. And so they centrifuge out the lactose, which also makes this friendly for a lot of lactose intolerant people, or all lactose intolerant people, but then it also decreases the sugar content. High quality protein. So they add in more protein, at the end or in the processing to make it a higher protein milk, which is awesome. So these kinds of things can be done. Same thing with this, like a Core Power, any kind of like a whey kind of a based milk drink. They might add extra protein and other things to boost up the nutritional value of this drink. Still totally safe. These things are added to give in an extra nutritional package to it. Make the milk even healthier, help you get more protein in your day in your little package. So there can be things added like that. And when Fairlife adds this protein, it's already a dairy protein. They're not adding anything weird or protein from a strange source. They're adding in extra dairy protein. So, it's not as scary as it seems. So then the last part where processors and companies that are marketing dairy products, where they try to add an extra value, and that's labels. And this is the one part where it gets so confusing, because you're in the grocery store, you're reading the labels, and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't even know, what does any of this even mean? So I talked a little bit about these two, the fat and the protein, but the other one is no artificial growth hormones. So that seems really scary, right? Let me tell you why it's not that scary. So all mammals have their species growth hormone. So we have human growth hormone. Cows have bovine growth hormone. They have all these different kinds of growth hormones. Every species has their own. And so they're made up of proteins. In their most basic form, growth hormones are made up of proteins. And so when you ingest the proteins from a different species, like cows, your body just digests it like a protein. It sees it. It doesn't see that it's a growth hormone for bovines. It just sees it as protein. So it doesn't hurt them. It doesn't hurt anyone to be consuming it, because it is just a protein that your body digests. It's not seen as any kind of a hormone that has an effect in our bodies when it comes from bovines. So, those are the big things. You often will see no artificial growth hormones. There's often no antibiotics on a label. That is common through all of it. Like I said earlier in the video, all milk is tested rigorously, multiple times through the entire process to make sure that it's safe, healthy, and nutritious. But then also we are testing for antibiotics to make sure that there are no antibiotics in the milk. And so if it is dumped. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because human safety is the most important part. Going into the grocery store, there's so many options and it is so confusing. I understand. I'm also that parent who's standing in the dairy case going, oh my goodness, I don't know what to pick.